Fine. Okay, we're recording. All right, who wants to go first?
Well, I guess I'll go first then. Um, I looked over Tish. Looked over your task 4. I thought with the content, what you had, it was appropriate, and the resources that you use for the language of the rubric, examine your areas of strength. I thought that I just noticed when you was in your paper that you had explained. I thought the way you explained about the student learning outcomes, the way you went in detail about that, I thought that was probably the strength. I didn't see the only thing I may have noticed, and that's just compared to, I guess, some of the things that we may have had. I don't think I saw anything indicating how you guys would, or your PLC would implement growth. I thought your leadership was demonstrated, obviously, with your PLC meeting that you had, and then I thought the way you went in detail about your short-term and mid-term goals and your long-term goals. I thought that helped with your demonstration of leadership. Other than that, I thought the way your paper, your narrative, it was written professionally, and I thought it was in a logical, organized manner. And then just looking at your citations, they look correct at the end.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see. For Whitney, Whitney, your task, I thought it was aligned with the course content. Your narratives were very good in detail. You're very good at your narratives. I thought it was because you got real specific. I think you even had something in about the in the PLC with the teachers nodding their head. So I was like, you're very detailed with your narrative. Only thing I thought would, and I don't think it's a sign of weakness, but just maybe add a picture. You had your presentation, but that's the only thing I could think of due to the fact that we have to, with task 5, all that documentation we might have to turn in. Maybe just throw a picture in of your meeting that you had, either maybe either one of the PLC or the administrative meeting. Okay. Your narrative was very good once again, and then and I thought you demonstrated your leadership with your meetings and the information that you got, and the way you informed the PLC. I thought that was real good. Obviously, your narrative was professionally written. The structure in an organized manner, your headings, subheadings, clearly presented. Easy to locate your evidence, the way you had it. And then I think in the last part, you had your appendix down there, and that looked correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can go next. David, after looking over your paper, I didn't notice a lot of things that were an issue. Your content was on task, on target. You explained each section in enough detail where the person reading it could, see where you were going and see where you were coming from with the data that you had and information. You included a copy of your agenda from your last PLC. You went into an even flow about your short-term, long-term goals. I did like the way you include information about the formative, summative assessment criteria. The only thing your graphic organizer was detailed and specific. The only thing that I noticed was there was, I don't know if it was intentionally cut off spacing or not, and then just a few grammatical things like might want to check, but otherwise, it flowed really well. Your administrative meeting section, the font, make sure all your font is the same, because that was in one font and the other was in a different font. But other than that, that's the biggest thing. But like I said, I think I just check the spacing, and then you had your references. But that was the biggest thing that I noticed, was the spacing on the pages and a few grammatical things. But that's the thing I noticed as far as weakness. Your leadership was demonstrated by how you talked about how you met with the staff. You guys came together as a team and put everything together. So that flow to make sense, and you delegated responsibility to other people to to assist you with that. Cindy, as far as yours is concerned, the content was excellent. It was a lot of detail. You had your charts and your graphics. The only thing I think for me, reading it, it was a lot. Not as far as the amount, but just as like some of the charts, if you could have maybe incorporated into your paper, and then the rest in the appendix. And but the information was awesome. I mean, you defended your PLC. You gave indication of why it had to be done a certain way. When you guys ran into barriers, you were able to go in there. You guys came together as a team and worked out a plan to still get the children the assessment time that they need for those critical students. Let's see, your leadership was definitely demonstrated by speaking up when necessary, delegating, going to administrator, working with your administrator to put things in place to make sure there was communication between you and your PLC and your leadership. The organization of the paper flowed well, and both papers were very interesting reading. But like I said, as far as the weakness, the only thing I would have done maybe is put some of your information, your figures into your paper, so it breaks it up a little bit. But otherwise, I mean, in your graph, your figures were awesome, because I was looking at them, and I was like, oh, so you definitely gave direction and indication of what you were doing, how it was done, and the direction which your PLC was going.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I can go next. David, I thought this was one of your better tasks that you've written. So I felt like you had a lot of meat in there and described a lot about your PLC and your plan of action. So I thought that was, aligned perfectly with what we were supposed to be doing and the content. I did mark some grammatical errors in there. There was something I had a question about. I don't remember what it was. I think you may have missed a word in there or typed the wrong word or something, but it's noted on your document. Okay. And then like your spacing, it seemed like you may have started typing something and went back and typed over it or above it, and it added all these spacings in there. Okay. I'm not sure if that's what happened, but just go ahead and delete all those. I didn't really feel like you struggled with anything in this task. I felt like it was all pretty good. I like how you researched why we needed a plan of action, or why your PLC team needed that. The only other thing in your paper, the first time that you talk about, is it the CTE? Is that it?
Yes.
The first time you reference that, write it out, what it means, and then put it in parentheses CTE, so then you can reference in the rest of your paper and not have to type it out, but the reader kind of knows what it means.
Okay.
But other than that, I thought it was really good. And then Cindy, I can always relate to yours because mine's very similar, so I really liked reading about your plan of action and how different it was than mine. I thought it was interesting that you had to have 2 meetings to complete it, because your team couldn't figure out a way to do the extra 40 minutes of your your math time. I thought that I'm sure there was a lot of heartache with that.
Yes.
Your team. So I can imagine that. But I liked how you wrote about both of them in your narrative and discussed what was going on in both meetings and how you didn't agree on one for a while, and then you came up with a plan. And I really liked both plans, actually. I felt like both of them could have worked, but I understood like why the first one couldn't. I felt like your narrative was very strong in your PLC, and I noted in there that I thought there was really good leadership because your principal wants you to go share with other grade levels after you get it worked out. So I thought it was really great.
Okay.
I didn't really think you were struggling with when you're using your parentheses, make sure you put a space like in between the word and your parenthesis.
Okay.
That was,
Okay.
and there might have been some other grammar that I noted in there, but everything else looked really good.
Okay, thank you. And after I looked at your paper and Tisha's paper, I went back and added more definition of why we needed an action plan because I realized I left that part out. So I fixed that. Tisha, I'll start with you. I thought that you clearly showed that you knew what the shared vision was and you had a clear path to achieve the vision. Your task is aligned with the course content, and you led the PLC to set up an action plan. You showed knowledge of the short, mid, and long-term goals. You told the importance of the action plan. You used technology of Kahoot, which I love Kahoot. That was awesome. I didn't realize they did that in high school, but that's fun. And I like how you connected it to something they already use, like their phone, So that's a device that's not, it's more engaging, and it's not going to be as threatening to them. So I thought that was good. You did a great job showing how you met with and presented to administration, and I liked how you had a picture in there as well, and how you established a shared vision. The only thing I would suggest is maybe in your abstract, maybe tell more of an overview of what you did, what you're, kind of show kind of strengthen the reader seeing how you led the PLC, and more of an overview of what you did to lead your team. But I don't know that that's a weakness, but it was, that's just a suggestion. Mm-hmm. You did a great presentation of leadership with the PLC and presented to the administration. Used the photo as proof of the meeting. Great job delegating the work of the PLC members based on their strengths and their position in the school. I really like that. I made a few suggestions on the grammatical and punctuation changes, but not many. And the paper was very well organized, and your references were correctly cited. So good job. Whitney, it was a great paper. It was well aligned with the course content. I like how you stressed the importance of the action plan and re-emphasized this importance with reviewing data. You clearly showed that, you clearly influenced what your knowing clearly influenced what you did. It was clear what the role of each member was in collecting the data. And I love the PowerPoint. I thought it was really good. And how you created that to show what measurements you're going to use and your short, mid, and long-term goals and best practices. The strengths of the paper was that you established a shared vision with the PLC through reiterating the data, like how you just keep, telling them about the data, because sometimes we lose focus of why we're doing. And this led to you and how you reiterated the data, which led to the choosing of the greatest need. The PowerPoint was clear and concise and stated the best practice and how they would monitor progress. The paper was very well written, covered everything in the rubric. I don't have any suggestions in the content of your paper. I did notice that maybe like one of your subtitles was like, I can't remember what it was. It was like a subtitle, like Math Talks. And I'm not sure, I think you put it beside what you were writing about. Maybe it should go above. I don't know. I don't know how that's formatted.
It was more of like a subheading.
Yeah.
So I did it differently just to show that it wasn't like a true heading.
Right. Yeah, I
don't
don't.
know. Right.
Yeah.
I'll see if they say anything about
Yeah.
it.
I even tried looking it up to see if I could find anything on it, and I couldn't find anything, so I don't really know. Your leadership was demonstrated in how you led the PLC to review the data and through the PowerPoint, which you used to keep them focused. I like the keeping them focused part. That's sometimes hard, I found. And making sure that you have a shared vision and that you use the best practices, and how you showed you showed leadership as you showed the PowerPoint to the principal. Few mechanical things, very few, very well organized and correct citation formatting the APA data, their style data. A good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm going to stop recording if that's okay.
Mhm.